Hey guys, welcome to Season 5. It's been a while since I did any build guides because last season I played a Barbarian main for group progression and Wizard wasn't really progressing last season, so I didn't do anything. But this season, Wizard is really strong, whether in solo or in group, so I decided I should make some guides. What's really funny is in this season, all the strong Wizard builds are melee builds, and as a wizard, normally you're kind of like a glass cannon, but the builds this season, it's all about being close. Being far away this season actually gives you no benefits. You actually become weaker, you do less damage, you take more damage. Meanwhile, if you're in melee range, the builds for melee range, you do more damage and you're more tanky. It's kind of odd. Anyways, off topic. The build I'm going to talk about today is the very popular solo progressing Arcane Orbit build. It revolves around using Arcane Orbit and the revamped Delsere's Magnum Opus set. Let's go over the skills you use for this build. For starters, I use the signature spell Spectral Blade, Barrier Blade, and because you have to use your Arcane Orbit in close range, so this is a close range spell you can cast. And with the new item belt, Shame of Delsere's, I think it's something that was Shame of Delsere's, the name. Anyways, you do faster signature spell attacks, and every attack gives you a lot more arcane power in return. Also, Barrier Blade gives you a shield, new shield mechanic that is in place this season. Shield gives you more survivability, so you can keep casting it really fast with the belt, and gives you survivability. The faster you cast, the more shield you have. For my second spell, I use Teleport Safe Passage. Teleport is an all-round great skill. You can use it to escape defensively, and you can use it to attack aggressively. It's just all-round very good. And Safe Passage, because Wizard is not supposed to be a tanky class, and Safe Passage gives you that extra damage reduction you will need. Then I use the Slow Time Exhaustion. Since I'm using Delsere's set, Slow Time is the vital skill for this set. Enemies within your slow time will take extra damage, and the new set bonus, or the 4-piece bonus, is that if you're in slow time, you get a 50% damage reduction as well. So instead of, I think previously it was like enemy in your slow time take a damage over time of 2000%, and then they changed it. It's now a straight up damage reduction for you and half for your ally that's inside. Since you do extra damage to enemy that's within your slow time, it gets to a point you cannot damage the enemy unless they're within your slow time. And this is perfect since you'll be in melee range, you need a damage reduction, so just put it on you and enemy all around you explode with your Arcane Orbit. And I use Exhaustion because it does a additional damage reduction done to your character. For the next skill, I use Explosive Blast Chain Reaction. Because I'm using the offhand source, I think it's called Orb of Infinity Depth. Oh, there's all these new items, I don't remember the name, I just remember the picture. Anyways, Orb of Infinity Depth, it gives you a damage reduction and a damage increase by every enemy hit by your Explosive Blast. And Chain Reaction gives you the most hit since it stacks up to 4, I believe. And Explosive Blast with the Chain Reaction gives you the maximum amount of Explosive Blast you need for the buff. And most of the time you're going to be in melee range anyway, so it does extra damage, gives you buff for damage, and damage reduction is perfect. Then the main damage skill in this build, I'm using Arcane Orb, Arcane Orbit. It is the Arcane Orb variant where it floats all these orbs around you and it'll slowly explode to the enemy. And the new item, I believe is called Unstable Scepter. It's a new wand. It makes your Arcane Orb hit twice. And for some reason, it just does a lot of damage because you can just upkeep it, right? Instead of just spamming Arcane Orb, since it has multiple charges on Arcane Orbit. And with all these melee synergy, skills, items, it just make it very, very powerful. The new mechanics this season, it's more popular ones are shielding, shield stuff, and area damage. With a lot of area damage, your orb explode twice and they spread to more and they do a lot of damage. Especially up close, everything just spread even faster. So this just makes it very, very powerful. Then I am using Ice Armor, Crystallize, and mainly because of the item Halo of Arles. It just makes you, or whenever you hit for a certain percentage of your health, which is almost every hit at high greater rift or any greater rift, I think. I never encounter ones where it doesn't work. It creates a frost nova. It freezes everything around you, and it gives you survivability. Especially the item I'm using for Bracer, Ancient Parthian Defender. Enemy stun, then gives you damage reduction, which is something you would need. And frozen, the status frozen in this game count as a stun. So if you stun everything around you, you get damage reduction. And since you're melee range, you're gonna freeze them anyway. So it just becomes a very vital part of this build for damage reduction. Okay, let's talk about the passive I'm using. I'm using Arcane Dynamo. Arcane Dynamo works by you casting 5 signature spells, and your next spender spell will do additional damage. So what you do is you cast your Spectral Blade 5 times, or when you have max stack, cast your Arcane Orbit. I'm not sure how the math works because I tried playing without it at first. I get like something like Blur or whatever, right? And it just don't do enough damage. But after you use it, your damages go way up. So you pretty much need it if you want to do any high greater rift. If not, then you probably can go without it. But you really need the damage at the higher tier. Then I'm using Illusionist. Illusionist resets by you getting hit. It resets your teleport and your slow time, since it affects 2 of your skills already. And whenever you cast slow time or teleport, you get a speed increase on your character as well, and that is very useful. So if you get hit something really hard, you stand in fire, your Illusionist will proc and you can just teleport away even if it's on cooldown. Then I get Audacity. Audacity, enemy takes more damage. You do more damage to enemy in close range. Since this build, everything is in close range. So you just get a straight up damage buff. It's that simple. Then last but not least, I use Unstable Anomaly because it's just like a extra life. And I like how they fixed Unstable Anomaly. Before, it just knocks everything back and that's it. You could still die. But now they knock everything back and gives you a very, very powerful shield. And you pretty much cannot die from that shield, or they cannot one-shot your shield, I should say it like that. And it just gives you extra time to replenish, to reposition, and it's very, very helpful now. I like this patch. Okay, let's talk about the items I'm using. This is a Delsere set, so you must have 6-piece Delsere set, like the helm, chest, shoulder, glove, pants, and boots. And I'm using another set called Endless Walks. This set already exists, but they just revamped it. It's composed of Compass Rose, the rings, and the Traveler's Pledge, the amulet. And what it does is, while you're standing still, you gain extra damage. While you're moving, you gain extra damage reduction. And it's not a straight up boost, or it's not like a boost after a certain delay. It's a small increment and a decrease at a time. So as you're walking and you attack right away, so you might get both buff on at the same time. You can just tell from your buff bar. Oh, by the way, they fixed the buff bar this season. Good job. And then for the belt, I'm using the Shame of Delcere's. I'm wondering why it's called Shame of Delcere's. Maybe it has to do with Delsere set, or just kind of like a part of it. But it's, like I mentioned earlier, increases your signature spell at attack speed and gives you extra arcane power regeneration on use. And that is very helpful for using Barrier Blade. And I'm using Ancient Parthian Defender and Halo of Arles. These always come in pair with Ice Armor Crystallize, or Ice Armor anything, but people always use Crystallize. This is the best one. It gives you a lot of survivability, whether it's a Frost Nova proc or it's the damage reduction proc from frozen enemies. Both are very, very helpful. And I'm using the new wand, Unstable Scepter, that allows your Arcane Orbit or any Arcane Orb to hit in extra time. And the orb, I'm using, what was it called again? Orb of Infinity Depth for your Explosive Blast, extra damage and extra damage reduction again. For the legendary gems, I'm using Bane of the Trapped. It just gives you every extra damage to everything around you. Bane of the Stricken for you to kill high HP mobs like elites or Rift Guardian. An Esoteric Alteration, it just adds your survivability by exponential amount. Let's talk about the items in your Kanai's Cube. For the weapon slot, I'm using Triumvirate. The Triumvirate is actually interchangeable with the Orb of Infinity Depth. what you want is to have both these effects. It doesn't matter which one is in what. The one you use is probably the better one, and cube the one that's not as good, because the one cubed will always have the maximum effect. And the effect of Triumvirate is when you cast 3 signature spells, since you're always attacking with Berry Blade super fast, so you always keep this buff up. When you attack 3 times with your signature spell, your Arcane Orb will do extra damage, and in this case, we'll always have that buff up anyway, so you don't have to worry about watching your buff for that. For the armor slot, I'm using Aquila's Cuirass. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, sorry. When your resource is above a certain percentage, which is like 85 or 90, you have a buff that gives you 50% damage reduction. And in this build, the only arcane spender you use is Arcane Orbit and Explosive Blast. Explosive Blast is in a relatively medium timed cooldown, so you don't have to worry about spamming it. Arcane Orb, you cast it once and there's many orbs to explode, so you don't have to spam it either. And most of the time, or almost all the time, you should be at maximum arcane power and you always get the buff. And then last but not least, the jewelry slot, I'm using Convention of Elements. It's just a straight up damage boost. It's not snapshot it, so you don't have to worry about when to cast your Arcane Orb to match it. Whenever it just turns there, it turns to Arcane, and you have your Arcane Orbit up, it'll just give you the straight up damage. So for this build, I actually turn off my, if you notice, I turn off my follower, because I want all the enemy to converge on me. I don't want like a Templar or Enchantress or Scoundrel to taunt them off or they attack it, because I want my Arcane Orbit to have the maximum effect. So I actually dump my follower. And for this build, what you do is you cast your slow time, you go in, get your Arcane Dynamo to 5 stack, and then cast Arcane Orbit and Explosive Blast whenever not on cooldown. Cast it whenever it's off cooldown, I just say it like that. And your teleport, you can use it to skip mobs, escape, whatever. But the key thing is you actually take some practice to not cast your Explosive Blast when your Arcane Dynamo is at 5 stack. You have to cast Arcane Orbit instead. And sometimes I still do, I mess up casting Arcane Orbit not at 5 stack of Arcane Dynamo. And I'm like, oh damn it, and then I cast it again when it's at 5 stack, and it's like a waste of time. And when you cast too much, you lose your benefit of your damage reduction from your cubed armor. So you have to watch out for that. Just remember, you do not do any damage if the enemy is not within your slow time. Sometimes I make the mistake of watching my my buff bar, because you gotta watch your Arcane Dynamo, and you can watch Convention of Elements. There's so many new buff bar watching now. You forget to cast slow time, and since it's a kind of like a transparent film layer, maybe I'm colorblind in some way, I don't know. You just forget to cast it. After a while, I'm like, huh, how come the mob's not dying? And you realize, oh, I didn't cast slow time. That's stupid. That's just stupid. Don't make the same mistake as me. Anyways, I got to rank 406 with this video, with this run, and I actually finished it with 4 seconds remaining, so I got pretty close. Very close, actually. Anyways, that concludes my guide. Hope you guys like it. If you do, please like and subscribe. If you have any comment or suggestions, please leave it in the comment below. Take care, guys.
I must wait longer. Still waiting.